You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
That's your job. Ex-DOJ prosecutor goes scorched earth on Trump attorney, based on an article by Elizabeth Preza. Prosecution first, facts later. Jeanine Pirro's office turned a busted paint job into a felony case, then quietly dropped it after admitting the damage came from a botched installation, not vandalism. Donald Trump responded the way he always does, by treating the Justice Department as a loyalty machine and mocking Pirro for not staying in character long enough to defend a bad case. Elie Honig's point cuts through the noise. This was not a brave prosecution undone by uncertainty. It was a prosecution launched before the evidence was in. Power, not confusion. The important fact here is not that the case collapsed. It is who had the power to make it collapse and who had the power to make it begin. Pirro held the institutional authority to indict. Trump, from the Oval Office, claimed the right to judge whether she had served his purposes well enough. That is the real hierarchy on display. Prosecutors acting as instruments inside a political orbit, not as independent public officers, testing evidence before they accuse. The charge came before the proof. Honig is right to say Pirro did this backwards. A prosecutor's job is to investigate first and charge second. Instead, the office charged Hearn with felony destruction of property, then later admitted the damage was not vandalism at all. That is not a minor clerical embarrassment. It is state power used carelessly against a person who had already been hauled through the machinery. The government did not merely get it wrong and move on. It created a criminal case, branded people as offenders, and only afterward discovered the factual basis was missing. Trump's real complaint. Trump's insult to Pirro was not about legal rigor. It was about obedience. His comment that she choked and folded like an umbrella reveals the standard he applies to federal power. Prosecute aggressively when it helps the political mood, then absorb the humiliation when the facts break the script. Honig called this a perfect exhibit of Trump's view of the Justice Department, and that is accurate. In Trump's model, DOJ is not supposed to be careful, independent, or evidentiary. It is supposed to execute will. When it fails, the complaint is not that injustice was done. The complaint is that the performance of power looked weak. The harm is real. Hearn is the person who had to live through the government's error. Honig's description of him as a textbook example of someone wronged by the federal government is not melodrama, it is the plain shape of the story. The case left behind reputational damage, legal costs, and the ordinary abuse of being accused by an institution that should have known better. That is why the comparison to January 6th rioters matters. The system is not supposed to be a vending machine for political grievance. It is supposed to punish with evidence and restraint, not with spectacle and later regret. Here, the state reached first and checked later. The pattern. This story is not just about one botched prosecution. It is about a political culture that confuses aggression with legitimacy and then treats correction as weakness. Trump wants federal power to look loyal. His allies inside government can either overcharge and impress him or exercise judgment and risk his contempt. That is the deeper danger. Institutions that are supposed to constrain power instead learn to perform it. When prosecutors oversell weak cases, they do not merely make mistakes. They normalize a system where accusation comes before fact, loyalty outruns law, and the government's first instinct is to punish before it understands what happened. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Alternet for today's article. With the automated voice of Lesak, thanks for listening.